Carried out in 1772, the first partition of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth did not alter its political situation. The state remained under Russian protectorate, where the ambassador of Catherine II wielded decisive influence over policy. Although the Polish monarch sought to modernize the country, he knew that without the empress's consent, he would achieve nothing. Therefore, through the establishment of the Perpetual Council at the Sejm, the king implemented a series of reforms in various aspects of social life. However, the attempt at a new codification of law, known as the Zamoyski Codex, met with resistance from the nobility, who opposed the changes, incited by the Russian ambassador and the papal nuncio. Despite the forced cooperation with the Russian ambassador, the situation in the Commonwealth calmed down, and in 1780, after over 16 years, Russian troops left the country. However, among the nobility, there was growing resentment towards the royal ambassadorial rule, and slogans advocating deeper structural reforms of the state gained popularity. The hope for a change in the position of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth came at the end of the 18th century. It was related to Catherine II's attempt to strengthen her influence over the Black Sea. Stanislaw August decided to take advantage of this situation, and in the face of an expected war between Russia and Turkey, he prepared a proposal for an alliance with the Empress. In exchange for the participation of the Commonwealth's army in the conflict, the monarch expected permission to carry out political reforms, increase the army, and convene a confederated Sejm, which could not be dissolved by the liberum veto. The final response from Catherine II came only a year later, when the war with Turkey was already underway. The Empress accepted the alliance proposal, agreed to convene the confederated Sejm and increase the army, but opposed the political reforms. The prolonged secret negotiations led by Stanislaw August with Catherine II weakened the king's position in the country, as anti-Russian sentiments dominated among the nobility. The King of Prussia was also opposed to the Polish-Russian alliance, fearing that it would cut off his path to further territorial acquisitions at the expense of the Commonwealth. His diplomatic actions prompted the Empress to abandon the plan of alliance with the Commonwealth, but it was too late to cancel the Sejm proceedings. The proceedings of the Sejm, convened with the consent of Catherine II, began on October 6, 1788, with the formation of a confederation and the election of Stanisław Malachowski and Kazimierz Nestorsapieha as marshals. The growing awareness of the need to repair the state and the belief in the favorable international situation meant that expectations for the Sejm were enormous. Delegates, based on their views, divided into three main factions: Royalist, Hetman, and Patriotic. The Royalist faction advocated for reforms and rallied around Stanislaw August. The Hetman faction comprised supporters of the existing system of the Commonwealth, and the Patriotic faction grouped supporters of the broadest program of institutional reforms. Many politicians saw an opportunity to carry out reforms by freeing the Commonwealth from Russian influence and forming an alliance with Prussia. These hopes were skillfully fueled by the Prussian King Frederick William II. His minister, in an address to the Sejm, declared the maintenance of the independence and territorial integrity of the Polish-Lithuanian state and non-interference in its internal affairs. These promises sparked enthusiasm among the delegates, but in reality, the Prussian king aimed to weaken Russian influence in the Commonwealth and further divide its territory. Encouraged by the promises of the Prussian king, delegates took actions to make the state independent from Russia. In October 1788, a resolution was adopted to increase the army to 100,000 soldiers. In January 1789, the Permanent Council was abolished, and henceforth, the Sejm exercised legislative and executive powers. In the spring of the same year, a permanent direct tax, known as the Eternal Contribution, imposed on the nobility and clergy, was enacted to increase the army. The idea of forming an alliance with Prussia materialized in March 1790. The treaty, adopted by the Sejm and signed by Stanislaw August Poniatowski, guaranteed the territorial integrity of both states and mutual military assistance in case of an attack by a third party. The alliance was essentially directed against Austria, from which the Commonwealth sought to regain territories lost during the partitions. However, it quickly became apparent that Austria and Prussia had concluded separate agreements. Ultimately, the main effect of signing the alliance was an increase in the king's recognition. Although he himself did not believe in the Prussian king, he decided to meet the expectations of the nobility and accept the alliance adopted by the same, ostensibly reducing the Commonwealth's dependence on Russia. In this way, both pro-reform factions, royalist and patriotic, began to draw closer to each other, and the slogan "King with the Nation, Nation with the King" began to gain popularity. As the end of the two-year term of the Sejm approached, work on institutional reforms was not yet complete. In order to continue them, it was decided in 1790 that the term of the Sejm would be extended. The enlarged Sejm continued to work on reforming the state system. In March 1791, the law on Sejmics was adopted, which deprived the Gotha landless nobility of the right to participate in Sejmics. On April 18, 1791, the law on royal cities was passed, granting new rights and privileges to townspeople. Despite the strong position of the patriotic faction regarding the Constitution project, work on it continued secretly from the delegates of the Hetman faction. On May 3, 1791, with only a small number of delegates and senators present, the first Polish constitution was adopted. Playing a significant role in its preparation were King Stanisław August Poniatowski, Ignacy Potocki, Hugo Kołłątaj, and the king's secretary, the Italian Scipione Piattoli. The constitution, known as the Government Act of May 3, contained the basic principles of the Polish state system, transforming the country into a constitutional monarchy. It adhered to Montesquieu's principle of the separation of powers. Legislative power was vested in a bicameral Sejm, where decisions were to be made by a majority vote. The liberum veto was abolished, and the Sejm remained ready to work throughout the entire two-year term. Executive power belonged to the king and his appointed guardians of the law, consisting of 5 ministers approved by the Sejm. The primate was also a member of the guardians of the law, additionally serving as the president of the Commission of National Education. Judicial power was independent of the legislative and executive branches, and the courts retained their estate character. The Constitution of May 3 maintained the estate divisions and the political dominance of the nobility but also confirmed the rights of royal cities. It declared that the peasant class would be protected by the law and the government, thus changing the concept of the nation.